Hello everyone, welcome to your digital class. So in today's class of data science, we are going to discuss about the data types which we are using in the R programming, and we have already discussed about the basic concept of the in the R programming, that means how we will write the comment in the R programming concept, and also how we will print something in the window and how we will run the program. So everything we have already discussed in our previous lectures. So in today's lecture we are going to discuss about the data types. Okay. So let us start our lecture. So first, what do you mean by data type? Actually, in every programming language, when we talk about the data type, that means which type of data we can provide in that programming to perform any type of operations. So here there are some types of data which we can provide in the R programming concept, like C and C++ or Java, any other programming languages. We are using the data types like integer, character, floating point, and then arrays, so everything. And here also we use some data types like that. So the variables are basically assigned with R objects, and the data types of the R objects becomes the data type of the variable. That means here we are using the concept of objects, and whatever the variable we are using in that R programming, that means basically when we are declaring a variable, at that point of time we have to provide the data type for that variable. That means which type of value that variable can store, whether it is integer type or floating point type, like this in all programming languages. But in this R programming concept, the variables are basically assigned with R objects, and the data types of the R object becomes the data type of the variable also. So there are many types of R objects, and whatever the type of R objects, that will be the type of the variables. So there are some frequently used R objects like vectors, list, matrices, arrays, factors, data frames, etc. So we will discuss all of these R objects one after another. So first let us see about some basic. So the simplest of these objects is the vector object, and there are 6 data types of these atomic vectors, and also these are termed as 6 classes of the vectors, and other R objects are built upon the atomic vectors. And basically the simplest object which we are using in the R programming to declare a variable, that is our vector, and within that vector object there are 6 types of data types, and these atomic vectors we have called it, and these are also called as the 6 classes of the vector, and these are used to build the atomic vectors for the R objects. And then first we will see what are these. So first one is our logical. So in the logical, which we have also discussed about, logical means whether it is true or it is false. That means when we are using in other programming language, logical means if it is true, we can provide, if we will provide 1 for true, then we have to provide 0 for false, like this. So here also the logical type or example is our true and false. That means these are the types you can use. So let V is the variable and in which we entered the logical value as true, and then we have to print the V, and this is the format of writing anything in the R programming which you want to display in the output window. So print class V, so it produces the following result like this, that it is logical. Okay, and in the next we are entering some numerical value in the variable. So when we are entering the numerical value, let it be the floating point or it may be the integer type of value. Okay, so which type of value may be it, it is a number, and we have to enter that into the variable, or you can say we have to assign this value into the variable. And then here is our variable V, and then we have assigned this v with 23.5, then we have to print that variable or the content of the variable by using the format print class v. Then it produces the following result like 1 numeric, and here it is used as class because in the previous slide we have discussed that these are called the 6 classes of the vector object. So, here we have to write the class name, and then next one is our next type of data we can enter is our integer. So, integer means 12, 34L and 0L, that means it is long, and then v, if we will enter 2L into the variable, we will assign this, then this will print as integer, but if we will assign only 2, then it will display the numeric like the previous here. Okay. So, this is the basic difference between the numeric values and the integer values. So, we have to remember these things also in the R programming when we are writing. Then next is our complex, and we can also enter the complex values into a variable, or you can say a complex values you can store in a variable by using the R programming, and the writing of the complex number is our, here is our real part and here is our imaginary part, and we are, it is the syntax of writing the complex number, that means real plus then an integer value then I, and then we have to enter this into the variable and then print class v, whatever the variable we are using. Here it is not mandatory that you can use the name as v, you can use any type of alphabets, and you have to remember some rules that you cannot name the variable name as numbers or any special type of characters like this, okay, but you can use any type of any number of alphabets but a single word only, and when we are using multiple words then you have to provide the underscore. So, these are some rules of writing the variable in the programming concept, and these are basic for all. And then here is our variable v, and we have assigning 2 plus 5i into this variable, and we have to display the content of that variable in the output window. So, this is the format print class v. So, it will produces that the variable stores the complex number. Okay. So, in this basically in the R programming, when we are entering into the variable and when we are printing that which type of class actually v that variable holds. Okay. That means here when we are printing the class v, that means it will gives the output that which type of value it is assigned to, that variable is of type class, which class. That means this number is of class complex, that is why here it displayed complex, but only if we want to print the content of the v, then we have to write only print v, then it will display 2 plus 5i, but here we have to display which type of variable we have entered, we have assigned into that variable. So, here that is our complex. Okay. And then next, if we want to enter or if we want to assign the character type into the variable, and we have to display that whatever the value we have assigned into that variable, it is coming under which class, it is which class type. So, here is some examples that a, good, true and this. So, when we are writing numbers, then we have to enclose it into single quotes and also in the single character format also, but when we are writing multiple, and these are some formats like you can also enter by using single quote, double quote or triple quote. Okay. And here if we will enter only true, then it will display the class is our logical, but here we have to enter the characters. So, we enclose it within double quotes and then we have entered, so it will contain the character true, TRUE, and then we are printing the class of this value which is stored in this variable. So, it is coming under the character class, that is why it is displayed that character. and next is our raw. So, hello is stored as 45, 65, 60, 60, 6F like this. That means it will produces the output like this. That means when we are entering the raw, that means we are entering into its ASCII format, or you can say it is in the its numerical format, and that is character to raw, and we have to enter here the characters, and then it will transfer to its raw value, that is a function called as character to raw, and then after transferring these characters into its raw value, that means 48, 65, 60, 60 and 6F, it will store that in this V, and then we will display that which type of value the V contains, and whatever the value it contains, this coming under which class. So, it will display the raw. Okay. So, these are the classes, and we have already told that there are 6 classes. So, these are 6 classes, and in R programming the very basic data type are the R objects called vectors, which hold elements of different classes as shown above. That means logical, numeric, integer, raw, characters, all of these. And then please note that the R is number of classes is not confined to only the above 6 types. Okay. There are some basic 6 types, but there may be some others. So, for example, we can use many atomic vectors and create an array whose class will become array. So, also we can use the concept of array here. And then next is our, let us go to the vectors. So, when we want to create vector with more than one element, you should use this she function, which means to combine the elements into a vector. So, in the previous only we are entering one element into that variable, and when we wants to enter more than one element, then we have to use this C function. And then this is the syntax of entering multiple elements to create a vector. That means here is our variable name, that means apple, and then this is our C function, and within this C function we are giving the arguments red, green and yellow. Then print apple, that means it will get the class of the vector. If we want to print this, we will write print only apple, but when we are writing and when we are want to display the class of or the type of the classes of the values which are entered, which we are assigned within this variable, you have to use this format. Okay, and this will gives the output as red, green and yellow. But when we are writing in this format print class and apple, then it will display the class of these values we have entered into this variable. That means these are the values which is coming under the class character. So, it will display the character. It will not display these values red, green and yellow. Okay. So, you have to remember these things also. And then the another data type is our list. So, a list is an R object which can contain many different types of elements inside it, like vectors, functions and even another list inside it. So, when we are using the list, or when we are writing the data type for the list concept, or it is an R object actually. So, when we are writing the R object which is named as list, that means it can contain many different types of elements, okay, and inside it like the vectors and also the functions, and also it can have another list within this. So, here is our function, that means list, and here is our vector C253, and it is here is our numeric value 21.3 and it is SE. And then print, when we want to print the list, then we have to print only list 1. That means here we are named the variable as list 1, and this is a function list, and we can give the arguments or the elements within this list function, any vectors or any functions or any type of values also. So, when we will execute that code, it will produce this results. That means 1 it will display the 2, 5 and 3, because here we have written C253. So, it will display 253 directly, okay. And then it is 21.3, then it will display that 21.3, and then it is it will display function x and dot primitive s in. So, it is when we are entering this s in, that means we are entering a function as an element into the list. So, this is the format of writing the list type of R object. And then next R object is our matrices. So, matrices is a 2-dimensional rectangular data set, and it can be created using a vector input to the matrix function. So, the function name is our matrix, like previous the function name is our list. So, here we can enter the elements as here is our vectors, that means C, and within this we can enter multiple elements, then number of rows equals to 2 and number of column equals to 3, and by row it is true, and we have to print the matrix M. That means the name of the matrix we have given here M, and we have to print whatever the value we have entered into this matrix. We are creating a matrix, and we know that the matrix is basically the combination of rows and columns, and here the matrix M is a combination of 2 number of rows and 3 number of columns. Like here you can see there are 2 number of rows, 1 and 2, and columns are 1, 2 and 3. So, by row we have to give the logical value as true, and then we have to print the matrix. So, when we execute the above code, it will produces this result. That means here we have given 3 and 3 value, that means 6 values. So, it will assign first 3 into this and then next 3 into this. As we have entered 3 columns, then it will display the values for first 3 values for first 1 row, and there are 3 columns. That means the column 1 and the row 1, this cell will contain the character A, and then A, then B, like this, okay. So, this is the format of writing matrices. That means first you have to provide the elements which we have to enter into the matrix, and then we have to give the number of rows, like n row equals to 2 and n column equals to 3, and then it will display that it is true, and then it can display this matrix. So, in today's lecture we have discussed about some of the R variables, and basically in the R programming we are using the different types of R objects, and the basic concept is our the vectors, and to represent that vector we use different types of classes. That means which type of value actually variable stores, okay. And there are basically 6 type of classes, that are logical, numeric, integer, like this. And in the next lecture we will discuss some other variables like arrays, frames, like this, and up to this it is our today class. And in the matrix we have seen that only we can enter or only we can create 2-dimensional rectangular data set, but in the array concept we will see how we will create multi-dimensional data set, okay. So, till then keep watching, thank you.